Today we are going to talk about two very important aspects of lasers, which is power and timing. So power is measured in milliwatts, and the power also determines your FDA clearance. So most health lasers, if you will, are classified as 3B lasers, and that allows you to go up a certain amount of power, which is 1599 milliwatts of power. If you go above that, you go into a class 4 laser, and that's where you get into thermal aspects, basically meaning that's where you can actually use lasers and they can burn you. So you want to stay in that class 3B, level. And that's determined again by the amount of power in the milliwatts, which is measured in milliwatts. So there are two wavelengths that are in health lasers. They are, and if you want to know more about that, you just watch our wavelength and nanometer video, which will explain all of that in detail. Or again, you can always go to the Blue Honest website and get all that information if you're interested in reading it. But there's two different sets of wavelengths. One is the visible light and one is infrared, which is non-visible light. Right? So as far as visible light is, you can go to a maximum of 13 milliwatts of power before you actually create burning. So from 13 milliwatts of power to 24, you will actually create a first degree burn. 24 to 36 is going to create a second degree burn, and above 36, of course, third degree burns, very serious burning. So you need to stay less than 13 milliwatts, basically 12 or less. So the ideal amount of power for all visible light laser diodes is 10 milliwatts of power. Now you still want to have that much. You want to use that because if you use less than that, then it becomes a timing aspect, which I'll get into in a few minutes. So all visible light. Now the visible light, it ranges from 400 to 780 nanometers. So that includes the violet light in the 400s, the blue light in the high 400s. The green diodes are in the 500s, and all reds are in the 600s. So there's your whole invisible spectrum. That's why we also call the Blue Honest Pro VX a full spectrum laser, because it incorporates all of that visible light, all of the different wavelengths. Then when you get into the infrared, you can use a much more higher power, and that you can get up anywhere between 1,000 to that, that close to that 1,500 milliwatt range. So 1,000 milliwatts is what's been researched mostly, and you do need that much power in order to create the depth to be able to get deep into body tissues or animal tissues, if you will. So here's how it works. When you combine all of these diodes, no matter how many you have, so we're going to talk again about the Pro VX model. Pro VX has 15 diodes in it. So there's 4 infrared in here. The 4 infrared are 250 each, and that gets you up to your 1,000 milliwatts, which is necessary. Now, if you go to our website, you're going to see the research on there, and there's a research paper done by Dr. Francisco Cidral, and he has actually graphs in there to show that you do need a minimum of 1,000 milliwatts of power in order to have the penetration to get deep into body tissues. So please go look at that. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute or two, but if you want to see that research document and read that, please go to bluehonest.com, go to the research section, you will find that research document there. So this laser has 4 infrared diodes, 250 each. That gives you your 1,000 milliwatts of power. Now since there's 15 diodes, that means there's 11 more in the visible spectrum, and all of those have those maximum of 10, again, the 10 milliwatts. We don't get close to that 13. We try to stay around 10, which is ideal. So they're all 10 milliwatts. So 10 times 11 diodes is 110 milliwatts of power. So 110 plus 1,000 is 1,110 milliwatts of power. That keeps us in the class 3B range, but yet gives enough power, more than enough power, to have all the penetration necessary to have maximum results. So that's as far as power is concerned. That's what you need to know for deciding which laser you're interested in. This next is timing. Timing is something that hardly exists at all in the laser world, which is very unfortunate because it is so vitally important. And we have done so much research to make sure that we abide by this law. So the law is written right here. It is called the Arndt Schultz law, which is specific for health lasers. And what it states is that the lasers work on a bell curve. So as you can see here, The lasers, as soon as you turn them on, you start to have the beneficial effects. And you have them, works on the bell curve, and then you go down. But when you get to this level here, you will actually, if you go past this level, you are going to actually lose the benefit of what you're trying to gain. Now keep in mind, lasers, cold lasers will never hurt you. But why use them if you're not going to get the maximum results? So you need to be able to respect this aspect, this Arndt Schultz law, to make sure that you stay within that realm so you get the maximum results. So how that is measured is by something called joules, and joules centimeters squared. So if you multiply, in order to get this measurement, you need to multiply the power, which is measured in milliwatts. They actually call it watts, but we use milliwatts, so you have to use a different number, if you will. And then you multiply that by the seconds, and then it becomes a little bit more detailed of whether you use continuous wave or pulsed wave. So lasers are made in two different forms, if you will. One is called a continuous wave, which basically just is a continuous wavelength, and has no frequencies, no pulse. And then you have pulse frequency. Now, why is that important? It's because it's a well-known fact, and please watch our video on frequencies. You'll understand that if you use pulse frequencies, lasers are anywhere from 10 to 1,000 times more efficient, and which means you're going to get 10 to 1,000 times better results if you use pulse frequencies, and the frequencies have to be dialed in. So you need to incorporate and know all of this stuff. So if you use a continuous wave, you only have to multiply your power times your time, seconds, watts times seconds, and you'll come up with joules. And if you stay in those joules and you stay in that realm, your timing is perfect. But if you put in the pulse frequencies, then you have to actually change the second because there's pulse frequencies, right? So it becomes a little bit more difficult. Now, when you get into like the Pro VX, which has over 57 settings just for humans and another 30 settings for animals, you're talking just humans alone, there's over 350 settings that you need to change, because there's an average of 6 different pulse settings within each setting, as locations that is. So you have to measure each one of them out by the milliwatts, the seconds, and the pulse frequencies. So if you use a high pulse frequency versus a low pulse frequency, it's going to change your seconds. You need to do that. So we have done the research on hundreds and hundreds of all of our settings to make sure that we stay within this range so that you can get the maximum results and you have the maximum time. Because if you go over, you're not going to have any negative effects, but you aren't going to have any positive effects neither. So you need to make sure that you stay there. Now, if you want more information on this, please go to bluehonest.com. If you liked this information, hit the like button. Please do that. And you can always get more information by just giving us a call. If you want to get in touch with us, you can go to customer service at bluehonest.com and set up either a Google Meet or a phone call. We'd be more than happy to talk with you and explain more details. But we have done our research. This is the Pro VX laser is the most advanced, sophisticated, and it is the first and only FDA cleared full spectrum laser that exists today. And we have done our homework to make sure that this is so easy and precise for you to use, and so that you get the maximum results. So thank you again for watching. We have tons of videos. Please watch more videos. Please like us, and go to bluehonest.com and go to the research page. We have just documents and documents and research documents that prove everything that we say in every one of our videos. And we're here to help you. We love it. All right. Take care. Thank you for watching.